I've had the opportunity to talk at this event over the years, and I've talked about a similar topic a few times. The first time I talked about search and big data, it was really more of an experiment. We were looking at how those two things fit together, and that was the first presentation a few years ago. Second time, we were getting more confident that these two things belong together because we had a customer, a key customer that we could showcase, and we did that here. Today, what I'm going to be talking about is the fact that we really believe that these two things belong together. We've proven it, we've got lots of use cases, and I'm going to be talking more practically about what we've been doing the last few years. I have 15 minutes, and I bumped into Sue yesterday and said, hey, I've got a 15-minute keynote after your keynote, and she said, wow, 15 minutes, that must be the keynote equivalent of a tweet. So I hope you bear with me as I try and squeeze in as much content as I can into 140 characters. Is it still 140 characters? I don't tweet very much. So before I get into the presentation, I wanted to talk about who we are as a company, what we do, and why we do it. This is the official blurb. But the background of the company is that I used to be with a search product company back in the late 90s, early 2000s, with a number of my colleagues. And we sold quite a lot of search products at that time. The frustration that we had was that while we were selling lots of product, not many people were really implementing solutions. They were buying products, but they weren't really able to apply the right expertise. So we founded Search Technologies in 2005 to help people get the most out of search. Now, the whole landscape has changed. Search and big data are coming together, and so applications and solutions that we're creating today look very different to what we were doing 10 years ago. I like to use the analogy that our chief architect, Paul Nelson, uses. He says that product companies in our space are analogous to a camera. And services company in our space, especially ours, we like to help make the movie. And so I like that analogy of why a services company is different. You need the camera, but you also need the expertise. People watch movies. They don't want to know too much about cameras. We are now over 180 employees. We started 10 years ago. We've served over 700 customers. We'll talk about some of those in a minute. We've got lots of expertise in search and now increasingly analytics. The early days, we used to work with FAST, Google GSA, Autonomy. Today, it's very common for us to see Google GSA, FAST, Microsoft SharePoint Search, but also open source and Cloudera, Hortonworks. You see that very often now. We've grown consistently and profitably, and I only say that because it illustrates to me that I work with a talented group of people who are very focused on this space, helping people get the right solutions that really deliver value to the organization. So that's who we are and that's what we do, and these are some of the customers that we've worked with. We're very proud of the customer base that we have, Fortune 500 customers, in pretty much every industry vertical that you could think of. We're not focused on life sciences or financial services. We're across the board. What we do focus on is use cases, because it's use cases that matter, and any one of these organizations may have the same problem and may be able to use the same use case, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So search powers big data analytics, a big claim. We've, for a long time, said that search and big data belong together. But we tend not to breathe our own fumes or believe our own hype, and so we tend to go outside to get some validation that this is true. We've talked to Gartner, and there are some great articles by a guy named Darren Stewart who talks about how search and big data are very complementary. I definitely recommend that you read those. But I had the pleasure of meeting Doug Cutting a few weeks ago. Actually, it was at the Data Impact Awards where Thorne and Digital Reasoning won their award for their fantastic work. We had one of our customers, Adecco, in the recruitment space, who were nominated for award, and we got the chance to sit down with Doug Cutting. And many of you probably know who Doug is, but if you don't, then he is the creator of Lucene and Hadoop. Hadoop is named after his 2-year-old son's toy elephant. I think most people knew that. And Lucene is named after his wife's middle name. That's what he told us at this event. But having had the chance to spend some time with Doug, I said, look, we think search and big data go hand in hand. You've created two platforms that are, arguably the most successful open source platforms in their space. What do you think? And this is exactly what he said. He said, people today think that search and big data are separate, but in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll wonder why we ever thought that. So this comes from the guy that created Lucene and Hadoop. So that further underscored what we believe, and that is search, big data are just coming together and are just two sides of the same coin. So what does that mean in real terms? Well, we think that it's a new way of thinking, right? It's evolving how people are using search applications. In this graphic, you'll see on the left, and this is actually based on our customer Adecco. On the left, you still have people searching and getting back lists of results. But then we've evolved to create navigation techniques, putting those results on a map or in a bar chart. But now, what we're able to do is by combining big data and search, we're able to take it to a third level and start to analyze. So in this example, what we've done with Adecco, and it's kind of moving in the lines that Sue was talking about, is we have statistically analyzed every single resume and every single job. And now we match jobs to resumes. So instead of recruiters searching, we now have the system taking a job, automatically matching it and giving them the 5 best candidates, the statistical 5 best candidates. Now, I don't know if you know any recruiters, but they like talking. They don't like searching. And so this has really worked well for Adecco, and it's been in production for about 1.5 years now, and they've seen some great results. So it's actually real-life use case for search and big data. But there are other use cases, and I'm going to talk a little bit about corporate-wide search, but we've got use cases in fraud detection with a healthcare company, recruiting in search and match. Search and match we're about to apply to patient-to-patient matching for a pharmaceutical company for clinical trials. We're also looking at the same technology to look at source code, to match snippets of source code to find similar source code for large organizations that have millions of lines of source code. In e-commerce, media and publishing, like recommendations, and log analytics. We just completed an application for a financial services company. But the one I want to talk about really is a life sciences company, 18,000 people, many, many offices and locations, manufacturing plants around the world. And they have the same problems that probably a lot of people in this room have. Lots of data information systems, but nothing's connected together. So they're searching in one, they're doing analytics in another, but they can't really connect the dots. We've started an assessment with them. Full disclosure, it's early days, but we are starting the project right now, and we're on the path to help them build not just a search and knowledge management solution, but we're going to take it to the next level by integrating big data. Now, they are using the term data lake, and I don't like to use terms like that, buzzwords, without trying to at least define them. Our definition, which is the same as Wikipedia, is that it's a large storage repository, and it's holding vast amounts of raw data in its native format until it's needed. Pentaho came up with this. And what that means is we're basically taking unstructured and structured content, and we're throwing it into a data source that allows us to normalize it and then go across all of the different data types. So you've got structured information coming from business intelligence systems or Oracle Data Warehouse. You've got SharePoint. You've got all kinds of different information, so you normalize it, and then you can do business intelligence across it. There are other advantages. You can re-index in a matter of hours instead of a matter of weeks, because you now have this copy of this information. And so it really helps to build the kinds of solutions that people want to build today. This is what it looks like for these guys. We're going to be taking in some of their proprietary content from electronic lab notebooks, SharePoint, from the cloud, from all kinds of different places, and we're going to bring them together and normalize them. And then we can do what we want. We can search, we can throw them into a big data cluster and start to do analytics. And so that's going to be a future phase, future meaning in the next few months of this project. So that's the concept of a data lake. What they're hoping they can get from this, or what they want to do, is they want to be able to analyze things like drug production trends. You know, what's the trend for my batches of drugs and batches of raw materials? Locations, why is this location producing 5 times as much yield as another location? Yield, same sort of thing. You know, what processes and systems will allow me to do that? And traceability, which is very important. The great story I heard from these guys, and what really drove them to build a solution, is that they have they had a problem in one plant where their pills were coming out pink. And they weren't supposed to be coming out pink. And it was the only location in the world that this was happening. And so they spent 9 months, and 9 months of having this plant not operating cost them so much money. They spent 9 months working out why. And in the end, it was because they had changed the fluorescent bulbs to LED bulbs. LED's cheaper, so they cranked up the heat, the light, and the bioorganisms that were producing the medicine were so sensitive that the pills were coming out pink. And that was 9 months that they ended up investigating that. It was noted in an electronic lab notebook somewhere, but they never found it. And so that case on its own justifies the project that we're doing with them. It reminded me that not everybody is averse to having their pills a different color. If you haven't seen this show, in fact, these guys got in trouble when their pills weren't blue. So if you haven't seen this show, it's a great show. You'll see what I mean. Just to finish off here, I'm going to give you the high-level architecture of what we're planning to do, not just with this customer, but with other customers too. So, you probably have some of this architecture already in your organization. You've got content sources that you're connecting into a search engine and perhaps feeding through to a web browser. That's your standard corporate portal. But what we're doing with these guys is we're building in this enterprise data lake. It's actually a Cloudera cluster. So you've got HDFS, you've got MapReduce, so that you can go out and do all your big data and analytics reporting and bring it back and then feed it through to multiple users. And you can have different kinds of use cases for the different kinds of users. So this is something that we'll be implementing in the next 12 months for these people. And it's probably the first time that we've used this concept of a data lake. We've done something similar, but it's a concept of a data lake. I have other use cases that I'd like to go through with you, but rather than go through them here, what I'll say is that on our website, we have got some video blogs that really go into detail on the use cases that match search and big data. I'd encourage you to take a look at those. My colleague this afternoon, Derek Rodriguez, has a talk on the Library of Congress where we've done some similar things. And of course, we're at our booth, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about some of the real-life examples that we have put into production. Thank you very much.